I've done Christmas ornaments every year for a lot of years, and you run out of things. All right, I've done globes. I've done globes hollowed from one end, globes cut in half. I've done bells. I've done stars. Lots of different things.
Angels.
Angels, yeah. So what I thought about this, and actually I thought about this a little bit last year, and I wanted to take away all the excuses you folks might have for not making Christmas ornaments. I know it's spindle turning, but so I came up with this year. Oh, sorry, I'm right in your face. So this is all based on making some standard things. Standard top. It may be a standard bottom, but the standard top is the thing that's common to all of these. It's a 1-inch tenon, and why? Because this is a 1-inch drilled hole. All right? So what you have is this whole variety of things that you can do when you're starting with a 1-inch thing. All right? These are all the same. All you have to have is you start this side with a 1-inch Forstner bit, and then you can do it whatever shape you want. You can this is one that's been textured, and then I painted it with unicorn spit last night. This one's done with alcohol dye, but again, it's the same thing. I have a bottom I've turned, I've drilled out a part, and a regular top. So that's pretty standard. But if I want to make something like this, I drill the hole, and I'm telling you that drilling a 1-inch hole and coming in and hollowing that through a 1-inch hole is a heck of a lot easier than drilling it, coming in and hollowing it through a 1/2-inch hole. And so this becomes really straightforward to do. And if you want to make it one that has a bottom to it, guess what? So that's a tight fit in this one. Anyway, you get it. You just drill a 1-inch hole all the way through and then hollow it. One of the things by doing this all standard, having 1-inch tenons, 1-inch hole, 1-inch tenons, is you can do, my wife's a quilter, and so what they do is they audition fabrics. All right, they set different fabrics next to each other and see which one works together. All right, you can be very engineering oriented and meticulous and make these all the same, or you can kind of get close. But what this allows you to do, you say, oh, does this top work better with that bottom? You know, you can, if these are slightly different size, you can pick the size that maybe works the best. I have a decoration, a spiraling tool decoration.
Let me get that in tight.
On the top and bottom, so I want the spiral stuff to
I'm
be.
getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want spiraling stuff to maybe be matched, but then I also have, this is a Wagner tool. Maybe I want those to be matched.
Oh, sorry.
Got it?
Yeah, I got it.
But maybe what I do is audition until I get the right combination that I want, and then I'll go back and add the decoration, and I'll show you how to do that. So the first thing we're going to do, this is not exceptionally hard turning, but we're going to start with making these. And you can make them, a bunch of them, since they're all the same standard size, and have them sit to the side. And then you do a bunch of bottoms, and then you decide what the middles you want. Now this one is different in that I wanted something that kind of protruded through, and I did it as one piece, all right? Now probably what I would do is I'd take a smaller piece of wood and turn this and just drill a hole and make it fit, all right? Because I've wasted a fair amount of wood to get.
And why did you do it that way?
That's what I was
I mean,
doing.
with the,
Oh, because I wanted it to stick out the bottom.
oh, okay, all right,
And
thank
I
you.
would do, I did not paint all of these. These are just bare wood. All right, I just wanted these to show you the shapes and some of the things you can do with them. I'll take them and paint them. And this is just done with a beading tool, you know. The thing that you have to pay attention to when you do ornaments, though, is weight. All right? You want to always minimize the amount of weight, but when you think about a globe ornament, which I've made quite a few of, a globe ornament can easily be 6 inches long, all right? When you think about the globe and you think about a finial and you think about then a top on it, and if you're not very careful about the hollow in the globe, all of a sudden it's now, you know, not 1/8 of an inch thick, it's, you know, 3/16 of an inch thick. That all weighs down. Now you got, how many places do you have on a tree where you can hang a heavy 6-inch piece, you know? So doing something like this, you always want to be conservative with the weight. And so I decided to make these a little smaller, and because I was drilling them out, the walls are not tremendously thin here. In fact, you can see they're not thin. That was just one I did last night, but so you can see they're fairly, you've taken out so much of the bulk by drilling, though. So the first thing I'm going to do is make one of those tops. And this is one of those times you need to decide if you're going to make a bunch of these and you want them all to be somewhat uniform. It's the time to get out your calipers, and so maybe I say I want to make it that wide. All right. So you set
That's
them.
too close.
Okay.
Wait. Yes, okay, thank you.
All right. So you set your calipers. And then step 1 is going to be turn this down to that diameter. Close. Okay. The other thing you're going to want to do is square off the end, and you can do that with the skew. Or you can do it with parting tool or whatever. So I'm going to drill So I always want to put a divot in there so I have a center for my drill to start. Oh, that's not what I'm going to do first. First thing I'm going to do is bring up the tailstock. Okay. So I'm going to bring my tailstock up. So step one, let's make a 1-inch tenon. So if I had another one of these, I'd set it to 1 inch, or if I had an inch wrench. But it's got to be a pretty good fit. So I do like to sneak up on it. And I just use one of these to check my fit. And this should, like I say, this should be a pretty good fit. So this is definitely one of those places you have to sneak up and take your time. So the most typical thing I'll do here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little taper in that, all right? Close. Because it takes nothing to go right past that, like that, all right? It's there, it's not moving around, it'll glue in fine, but it's not a, I don't need a friction fit, but if I want to hang it without gluing it, yes I do, but nonetheless. So now, this, I can make this any length, but most of them are about this long. But before I start working on this, I want to reduce some weight. So I am not going to need any of that wood that is in that tenon, right? So in this case, that's a 1-inch bit. I'm going to cut that with a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. That was a little quick for drilling. And I usually go in just the thickness of that. If I go in too far, I'll have a tendency, as I make that tight sweep, just cutting through that thing, all right? So that's my tenon done. I relieved, that's about 3/8 inch of wood I've taken out of there. And I'm going to put an end point here. And now my goal is going to be, well, I got 2 steps actually. One is, you'll see on these things, what I have done is they don't come flat across. All right, there's a relief. It comes down like this, and then it starts sweeping up. All right, and so what I want to do is I want to cut this relief not all the way to the tenon. I want to leave a flat so that when I glue the thing on, it sits flat against the bottom of this piece. All right, so the easiest way to do that is just to cut in at a bit of an angle like that. And you can see that there's a little flat. In fact, I can go in a little bit more. And just like when I was doing the taper on the Christmas tree, this hand controls the bevel contact. So as I'm going in, the diameter is getting smaller, so this hand has to come up to maintain that same geometry between the cutting edge, the bevel, and the piece of wood. So there we go. I got a nice clean bevel cut in there. And now I want to make that sweep that all of these have. I can do it in a step. I did this one in a step, but when you do it in a step, you're leaving extra weight. But these aren't that heavy. It may not be that big a deal. So this is a cove. That's all you're doing. And I'm going to waste some wood here. And the movement for a cove.
You just covered it up.
Did I?
Yeah.
All right. The movement for a cove is you rub the bevel against the side of the wood here with the flute closed. And as you come down, you scoop out the wood. All right. You move it, and so when you're at the bottom of the cove, your flute is wide open. All right. So again, I'll waste a little wood. And I'll come down. So that's vibrating. I want to get rid of that vibration. Because you drill that with a Forstner bit, you already have a divot in it. Does anybody see a kind of similar shape what I'm doing right now to something both we do for zoo lights and you probably made a ton of before? This is making the stem of a spinning top, right? Because this would be the pointy part. So you can get some top making practice. Now, There's something that I've told you all about finials that applies here too. And that is, a finial always looks thinner on the lathe than it is off the lathe. All right? So make this another cut thinner than you think it ought to be. Boy, did I see a lot of nodding heads with that one. So I also tend to use a skew in here as well. Because it's pretty easy to get a nice flat stem without putting ridges in it that you might get from a spindle gap. And then I will usually come back. I'll leave it a little wider at the top because I got to get a screw eye in there, all right? And I don't want it so thin that when I put the screw eye in, it's going to split it. And usually taper that down, and then I'll come back and cross cut that. And then I'll go ahead and do a quick sand. I'm supported. You have some design choices. All right, you can determine how thick you want this to be, whether you want it rounded over or not. So I can do that either with a gouge or sandpaper, but now you see I've got it round, more rounded. I usually go through the grits on these.
Is that another piece of holly you got there?
Yeah, when that tree came down, I went from the smaller stuff, I just cut it all up into spindle stock and kept throwing it in a big tub. Now, it does check. So I have a fair number of these pieces. You'll go through this and it'll just split, or you'll find a check inside. So there I go. I can use a skew, or I can use a thin parting tool. Once again, I'll just get rid of that tip and get my little green-handled thing, punch the hole in the center. Get another screw line, wax it. The reason I started waxing them is when I'm making globe ornaments, and let's say I'm making the finials out of something hard, one of the things I used a lot of is live oak. It is amazing what the finish you can put on really dry live oak, and I mean it polishes without even having to, you just sand it, but you don't have to do a whole lot to it. But it also takes ebonizing very well. So I've had, you know, where I've had a light colored dome and ebonized top and bottom. But live oak's pretty tough. So if you don't do something to lubricate it, you're doing that last turn on that eyelet and you turn the top of the eyelet off, and right in the middle of the thing you want it to hang from, you've got a piece of steel in there. So a little bit of paraffin ended up being a good investment. So there you have the top part. I'm calling these like pendant ornaments because this is hanging down. So now,
And how did you get that decoration in the top?
I'll show you that the next step. One of the things that, there's a lot of jam chucking to do some funny things with it. Easy jam chucking, but jam chucking nonetheless. And so if I'm going to do a second part out of the piece I have here, I don't want to take it out of the chuck. All right? So the next thing I'm going to do is, let me screw this up. So you can imagine how I do these, all these like that. Pretty straightforward, you just drill her through. I'm gonna show you how to do that, but I'm gonna make it into like, I won't do a birdhouse today because I don't have the other drills and all that stuff. So this was 3/4. I want to put the 1-inch drill in. Now, I've marked on this piece of blue tape what I think is a reasonable thing for one of those to go all the way through. But I don't want to do that this time. If I want to make a rounded bottom on this, I'm going to run out of real estate pretty quick. So I think I'll take it not quite to the bottom of the blue tape, all right? Yeah, I'm sorry for that. I've been listening to that for a week. There's some of them that sound so much like a flying saucer going through space. I'm thinking, you know, there must have been some time a sound designer was at a friend's workshop and he was drilling into a piece of wood and said, I love that sound. Now, here's another little trick. If you're going to make the bottom of it rounded, like for the birdhouse or whatever you want to call this, eggplant, hanging eggplant. You've left the bottom of it flat from the Forstner bit. How are you going to get that round? I don't want to work very hard, so I'm going to put in a 1-inch core box bit.
1-inch what?
This is a router bit. It's called a core box bit.
You want to spell that? Spell it.
C-O-R-E, core box, B-O-X.
Thank you.
B-I-T.
Thank you so much. So what that does is it gives me the round relief at the bottom. Just takes out a little bit more weight. Easy way to do that. Trying to get in there with a little scraper, and you could do it, but why? All right. So now what do I got? Well, I've got a pretty thick wall. And I should actually get a pretty good handle on where the bottom is, which is right here. So I'm going to be going, kids don't do this at home, I'm going to be going up right to the chuck. But what I want to do first is get the walls thin. Okay. Now, if I had cut that blank a little longer, I would have gone ahead and either cut it off right then or at least made some of the turn. Oh, that's not too bad. I can start the turn. All right. So there we go. Let me sand that just a little. All right. Okay, so but now I got this other honking thing on here. What do I do now? Well, that's the other thing about standard. See how true that runs? Not bad. So that'll be too loose for that, right? So let me go back because I got to true it up again. Now one thing I am doing is I'm parting down and I'm watching this thickness, because I knew this thickness was just a little small, so I can get reasonably close. So I part that off. And now we're back into jam chucking. So I got all of this if I make that too small. Okay. So you can even, again, I'm really low on real estate here, but you can even put a little doodah.
I'm not gonna ask you to spell that.
Now this you have to be careful of because you can pull her off, although that was a pretty good jam fit. Okay. So there you go. Now, like I say, it's just a matter of playing now. You know, you got the concept down. You know, if you drill it through, you make one of these without the long stem on it. That goes on the other end. All right? And you have this kind of thing. How about these? How do you do those? So again, I'm going to face it off and true it up. Now, I'm going to start this the same way. Because I still need that really good 1-inch entrance hole. But I'm only going to go in, that's about 3/16, something like that. All right? So the other thing I want to do is I want to give myself a center hole to follow. So I'm going to use this smaller bit. It's an 1/8 inch. And now, the trick is, how do I turn that? Again, make it easy. I took a 1-inch spade bit.
Oh,
And just ground it to a spear point. Okay? I matched the cutting angles on both sides like it was on the spade bit.
oh, shoot. Sorry.
was hard.
Can we pass that? Can we pass that? Look at it?
It'll be a
Okay.
little tough.
Does it have a little bevel on the edge then too?
Yeah, the edges, because on a spade bit, it's flat and they're shaped like this. So when this edge is cutting and this edge is cutting when the bit's going
It's not
around.
part of-
I just copied the same bevels on the edge of that.
Okay.
All right. But there I have that it's in about that deep. I could run that in a little deeper. That's okay. I'm not going to make this a particularly long one. So let's see.
Did you make this tool then?
Yeah. I just
Good.
ground it on old 1-inch spade bit I had.
When Christmas is over, you can turn them on sharp and a steer.
Yes, I could. So anyway, I got the inside done. I'm going to mark, the one thing I did have to remember when I did this the first time is I drilled this longer than that bit. So I turned it, the taper was really great, and I got right down to the bottom, and there's the hole from the 1/8 inch
Yeah,
bit.
funnel.
So I'll be all right there.
You could hang the piece of decorative cord out of that
There you go.
little tail of it.
So once again, I'm just marking my bottom. And again, this is pretty straightforward. What am I going to do now? A reverse taper like I would do on the Christmas tree, right? I got to get this end thin. When I get that to the thickness I want, I can stop. I can bring up my cone center. And now I'm supported at this end. So you can do different things. I mean, you don't have to make it perfectly straight. I could make it more a little kind of rounded shape if I wanted, Doesn't have to match the inside perfectly. That whole thing's being driven by that, which must be like a 32nd of an inch. There we go. So there we go. I have a dull top, so how am I going to take care of this? What size is this? 1 inch. I'll just put my jam chuck back on, screw it up, and now I can deal with all of this. All right? Before I go on to the next one, I want to answer a question you asked. All right. So, how would I put a decoration on the stem? Is that stem floating around or? So how do I decorate this? Well, if this was a good tight fit, there's an easy way. Get a better starting hole than that. So if that was a good tight fit, I can do it like that. What if I made it a little small? No, because the tenon is the hole is drilled, so it's the standard. If I made this tenon slightly loose, I can't do anything with that drilled hole, right? I could, but there is a standard on this. What's the standard? The inside. So this was drilled. So all I have to do is turn a tenon that fits the inside of this. All right? And that's how I do the bottoms. Because this is on there, and when it comes off, I can't do what I need to do here. So if it's not a tight fit, I just turn a 3/4 inch proud tenon on there, and it'll go right inside here, because that's drilled 3/4 inch. So that's how you do that. On this one, if we wanted to do the two decorations that I was doing were with a Sorby spiraler, mini spiraler, or Wagner tool. Do you have a preference?
Sorby.
You want to see the Sorby? All right. So if you use a Sorby pretty vertically, all right, you're going to get more dot, dot, dot kind of marks. All right, if you want to spiral, you drop the angle and be very careful. It has a tendency to want to what's called double strike or drunken strike, where it'll start, it'll skip, start again, and you'll have side-by-side spirals. But it'll turn much slower. Now, that needs to be trued up just a little bit. Let me make sure that's clean across there. And actually, if I wanted, I could even do it at a little bit of an angle. Okay. So bevel side up, bevel side on the wheel. I'm going to rock into it. And there's your spiral. It is a little drunken. Out here it's fine, but in that first, it's a little bit harder because you're not dealing with a flat surface. You're dealing with a little bit of a hill. And then I always outline got to be careful with these though, because you got the recess drilled inside, so you don't want to go wild with your.
What is that tool?
It's a point tool. I'll show you in a second.
Oh. Sorry. I'm with you.
All right.
Yep.
So all it is a piece of steel. It's ground on three sides. So from the top, you have a sharp point like that. I just bought some steel, some W2 or W1 steel, ground it, hardened it, annealed it, or tempered it, I should say, and then ground it to the final sharpness. But there you go. You have a decorated top. Now, the one last thing I want to show you is turned easy green though. All right. So now, the last thing I'm going to show you, I haven't really turned the bottom yet, but I think you get the idea about that. I'm going to turn this true. You see how nice that holly turns though. All right. So again, I have a 1-inch bit in here. And that just happened to be what I need. So this one I am going to turn to the mark I have, or I'm going to drill to the mark I have on the tape.
Jeez.
It doesn't do that for all the woods, but this is hickory. Or no, this is still holly. Yeah, this is holly. I had also hickory that squealed a bit. So here I have a hole drilled. It's this deep. All right. So if I come down from that mark a little bit and part a witness and go back and mark the center, I need to true that up. careful here that I don't get into where I've drilled. So let me, why don't I add it? Why don't I do that? Yeah, so that's about the right diameter. All right. Okay. So I want to also here, I want to reestablish my little flat spot. So now I have my little flat spot where this registers into that, okay, like that. And so you can see right now, I could just turn this and make one of those, all right? But I'm going to work on one of these. So what I need to do is hollow this out. The walls are, you know, here they're about, I don't know, maybe 5/16, which isn't terrible, but I'd rather have it thinner. So yes, I have 3 easy tools. You don't want to be too aggressive because you don't have a lot holding it right down here, okay? But this is what I was saying to you. Going through a 1-inch hole is a lot easier than going through a 1/2-inch hole. And I can just feel, where am I, you know? So I know I can go down a little bit farther. Top isn't too bad. And because you can feel the top, that isn't the place that you have to worry about. The place that you have to worry about is right here, okay? That you hollow too much and you just all of a sudden have a bigger hole here than a 1-inch hole. I can feel the step from the drill, and I want to be careful I don't And depending on how much measuring you want to do and all of that, you know, you can take her as thin as you want. So I'm in that deep, which is right about there. Okay. One more. He
Oh,
said-
that last cut.
Okay. There you go. So that'll fit on either end. All right. And I don't have another bottom handy, but
Here. Will that work?
yeah, this one would work too. That's the point about being all standard. Oh, this one's smaller. This one's a
Okay.
little tight. I don't know, this one's a little loose. But you can make finials if you want. All right? You can make bottoms like this if you want. But the point is, because you're using standard drills and standard tenon sizes, you've made your life a lot easier when it comes to doing this. And you've given yourself the ability to do a pretty wide variety of things. So that's all I had.
Thank you, Ed.